Hey, welcome to Open Hand Farm. My name is Penny, and I'm sorry my voice is still cracked. I had the flu last week. I feel better, but I just don't sound better, so I'm sorry about that. I did want to get this video up though. For week 2 of the Three Rivers Challenge, I made pita bread. And I decided to make a full video of just making the pita bread. And there were many people interested, so I wanted to get it up for you. So let's just jump in and make some pita bread. The first step to make these is to heat your oven to 500 and put a stone or a pan in that can take that high of a heat. In a mixer bowl with a dough hook, you're going to add 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Then you're going to add 1/2 cup of whole wheat flour. I am using einkorn flour, and that is considered a whole wheat. It is an ancient grain that is really good for you. Next, we'll add 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of sugar. I'm using maple sugar. Of course, I am making a double batch, so don't pay attention to my numbers. Then we're going to add in 1 cup of water. Now you want to make sure that that is filtered water to make sure not to kill your sourdough starter. Then we will use 1/2 cup of sourdough starter. Now this starter that I'm using is pretty much a pour off. So you can either use a freshly fed or pour off. Her recipe says an active and bubbly, but obviously it doesn't have to be. Then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm using avocado oil because I didn't want to have the taste of olive oil in the pita bread. Avocado is a little bit more clean tasting to me. And now you're just going to put your dough hook in and mix it all together. You'll keep mixing it until it has all incorporated in itself. And at that point, you will go ahead and keep it beating for 10 minutes. Or until the dough is stretchy and smooth. Then you're going to take it out and put it in a greased bowl. You can see it is a sticky batter. Do not feel like you need to add flour because it does work. Trust me. On all of Lisa's recipes, I just followed the recipe. Then you're going to cover your bowl and allow it to rise until double in bulk, about 4 to 6 hours. You'll see here that the gases inside from the sourdough has lifted the saran wrap into a dome. I just put a little bit of flour on the surface and bring the dough out on top of it. You can see the dough is still a little sticky, but that's not a problem. We're going to work it in the flour. I'm using a bench scraper to just kind of scrape it up at first, and then it gets to where I can touch it. And I just keep folding it over itself, folding it over itself. And that's going to activate that gluten, and it's going to just pull it together a little bit better. I'm just going to make a long shape here to start cutting it into the number of pieces that I need. You'll see I'm going to go ahead and work each of these pieces as well, because they are still just a little bit sticky for me. And then I will shape them and cut them into the desired number of pieces. Then when I have all of my pieces, I'm going to work them into little round balls. And again, just folding themselves over and kind of pulling on them as I roll them with the side of my hand so that they have a little bit of tension on the outside. And I will just place them on parchment paper. I had 2 pans here, and I will just go ahead and spread them out on here. And then after they are rolled out, I will let them just rest for about 15 minutes to relax all of that gluten so that they will roll better. After that 15 minutes, I just start rolling them out. Now, when I make tortillas, I don't have to put flour down. So I was trying that to see if that was a thing. And it rolled, but it was a little sticky when I was pulling it off the silicone mat that I used. So I decided I needed to go ahead and use flour for the rest of them. I ended up only using one of my big cookie sheets to hold the little balls of dough. So now as I roll them out, I'm going to place them on the second sheet with parchment paper. And you'll see I went ahead and just poured some flour on top of my board and put some on my rolling pin, and it's just so much nicer. And I could tell a difference in these when I was cooking them. They cooked up nicer when they had been used with flour. You want them to be about a 6-inch circle and about a 1/4 inch thickness. Mine were maybe a little bit bigger than 6 inches, some of them. I don't know. I didn't measure them, but it seemed like they were a little bit bigger. So maybe I went too thin. I had to get creative because my other cookie sheet still had balls of dough on it. So I took this tray that I have and just put some plastic cutting board pieces down on it. And now I'm to the end of the balls. So I'll go ahead and roll the rest of these out and put them on this cookie tray. Something to think about when you are rolling these out. I did a double recipe. If I did more than that, I'd have to be very creative on where I was going to lay them while I was waiting for them to cook. Now the fun part. You take the rounds and you open the oven and you pull your tray out. Try not to burn yourself, you guys. This is so hot. You just kind of throw your piece of dough on there and hope for the best. Just push it in, close the door, and set your timer for 3 minutes. And wait for the magic to happen. Now, your oven might be different. The recipe said 4 minutes, but I didn't need 4 minutes in my gas oven, so I just did 3. You'll see them start to puff up a little bit. Now, some of them will not totally puff up all the way around. These, I believe, were some of the first ones that I did without using flour, so they did not puff up as well. The one on the left did pretty good. So after they've kind of cooked for 3 minutes, you go ahead and take them out. And you just use a spatula to lift them off. You do not turn them over and cook the other side. You just let them cook like this. So then we put some more on. I'm really sorry I didn't clean my oven windows for you, you guys. I should have thought about that. At first you think, they're not going to do anything. And then eventually you start to see those little bubbles coming up and you know it's going to come. I'm doing it full time this time so that you know if it doesn't start right away, you don't think, oh, I did something wrong. Because it does take a couple of minutes for that heat to penetrate and really hit that dough. You see the one on the right is starting to puff up. I'm seeing there on the left, we've got some action there in the very front. And once the steam starts getting in there, all of a sudden it just happens. The one on the right is not going to puff up the whole thing. I can see that is not going to be a thing because it has separate bubbles instead of one big bubble. The one on the left, I believe it's going to puff all the way for us. Oh, look at the back of it. It's starting to puff. And there it goes. Once they start, it's just like, oh my word. It's so much fun. The kids were here that day and they loved watching them. You'll see them kind of relax. They puffed up and then they kind of relaxed a second. And that means that that's as big as they're going to get. And now they're just doing their cooking. So when your timer goes off, this is what you want to see. This is the one that is puffed all the way around. And I had a lot that did that. I had maybe 4 or 5 that didn't out of the 16 that I did. And after they're cooling, they do kind of deflate a little bit. I went ahead and cut this one so you can see what it's like on the inside. See how I've got kind of a see-through spot there on the top of that? When I open it again, I think I didn't quite roll them thick enough. So do not do them less than 1/4 inch. But these were some of them in the middle of the cooking process. And some of them stayed inflated through the whole cooling process, and some of them did not. The way I fixed this one that day is I heated up some bacon that I had in the refrigerator, and I just kind of put that in. And then I added some shredded cheese. I have recently been learning how to grow microgreens. So I have these sunflower microgreens. I love these. I added some ranch dressing. This is a really interesting, it's called Bolt House, and it's made with pineapple juice as the sweetener in it. I really like that. And then I just shoved it as full as I could with a lettuce mix. It was so good. I love using pitas like this. I love making salads in them, basically. So there it is. Thanks so much for coming along. And again, I'm sorry about my voice, but I wanted you to have this video. If you have not seen any of Lisa's videos at Farmhouse on Boone, you should check them out. She has the best sourdough recipes. I use a lot of her recipes. Enjoy this. Make them, eat them, love them. And until next time, blessings on you and yours.